Johnson neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, how y'all doing? Welcome to another edition of the Victoria Johnson neighborhood. The rest of us are just, it's her world, we just live in it. You know, that's not it?
Definitely not.
No, okay.
That's why we call it Johnson County.
Johnson County.
I like that.
Yeah, it's right. It's like, you know, we're going to just talk about the bond issues and stuff that, you know, a public service geek like Victoria really enjoys talking about. You know, I could see it now. You know, we don't talk about the Cowboys. We don't talk about the weather. We don't talk about the kids. We talk about bond issues in my house and that kind of stuff.
It's important that we get the word out.
All right. Well, yes, it is. And also, I have two other guests. We've got County Judge Chris Boedeker and our county engineer. So tell us who you are, sir.
My name is Colt Friedrich. I'm the county engineer for Johnson County.
And so he's the one you yell at and holler when you're driving over
Colt,
these roads.
this wasn't designed right.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been doing this job?
About a year and a half now.
So you could blame your predecessors, what you could do.
Unfortunately, there's no predecessor.
Oh, you're the first one? Oh,
Yes,
well,
yes,
then blame the county judges and the commissioners. That's what they're there for.
I mean, I really commend this judge and this commissioner's court for taking the steps that they have to start putting in we're focused on infrastructure and giving it the right attention that it needs.
But better than that, our county judge also is a Baylor graduate, like I am.
Yes, that is my biggest badge of honor.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying. You know, whatever else you do in life, even if you become Senator Boedeker, it'll never top that.
It won't. And I graduated from Baylor twice.
Oh, that's right. Oh, see, there you go.
He's really in your graces.
Well, the first time didn't take, apparently. So
Is that where your law degree came from,
Yes.
too? Cool.
Yes. Well, so there you go. We know we're in good hands. We're being led by good people. But also, we were talking about the bond issue. And I know that for a lot of people, it's like, okay, what else is new? But the thing is, if you drive on these county roads, you know we need to get this thing passed.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about all the outs and ends of it and all this business. And, you know, early voting starts on Monday. Yeah. So we got to stress that. All right, but let's run through the sponsors. I also have an announcement to make about one of them that's going to help us with to get the vote out. Also, it's Our Place with Otto, of course. Everybody knows Otto. You ever been to Our Place?
Yes, sir.
All right, of course. Of course you've been to Our Place. Who hasn't been to Our Place? It's like, that's why they call it Our Place, right?
Yep.
And we'll be there, I know, a couple times next week for, but every other Thursday, my Sunday school men and I get together and we like to say we sing psalms and hold hands, but no, that ain't what happened. We talk football. Anyway, whatever. But
you open and close with a prayer, right?
Oh, we do open, do bless the meal, yes. But as far as ending with a prayer, by the time we're done talking about football and politics, we ain't in the mood. So
I don't know. That's probably when you need the prayers the most.
I guess.
Especially if the Cowboys are playing.
That's exactly right. Well, we talk more about college football, and as Mr. Boedeker and I could tell you, this has not been the most
Baylor's
satisfactory year. No.
But they have a really pretty stadium now.
Yeah, we do. And we have a great basketball team. That's the deal.
Baylor does have good basketball.
We're becoming the Duke of Texas, I guess. But anyway, but the announcement is about Gina's Pizza. Taylor, do you have that slide there? There you go. See, he's so quick. I was talking with Otto this morning, and we do an election contest every year. And if you post that you voted, with the I voted sticker, or even if, just tell me you voted on the web pages, whichever one you want to use, this one or my personal one, we'll put you in a drawing for a $50 gift card. Now, let me be very clear. We're not going to ask who you voted for. We don't get into that. I've been accused. You're trying to push the vote towards somebody. No, we don't care. You vote for who you want, except we do ask for your vote on the bond.
Yes, please.
Yes, please on that.
Turn over the ballot and look down because it'll be toward the end.
That we do want to see, yes, vote on. But as far as your candidates, who cares? Because it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket anyway. So...
Have you thought of running? That's a great slogan.
Yeah. When I first retired from school teaching, it was like in the last month or so, a couple of my teacher colleagues came to me and said, you ought to run for the school board next year. And I go, I think so. And I go to my wife, Robin, I'm thinking about running. Bam! I didn't, no. I said, Robin, who taught you that kind of language? Anyway, but she shot that down. I didn't even get out of the dugout with my bat, much less took a swing at the pitch. So, she put a kibosh on that. And it's crossed my. I can't run for city stuff, and county stuff is over my head. So I thought about school board for a microsecond, but I couldn't do that now and do this. And so there you go. That'd be a conflict of interest. But anyway, back to Otto and Gina's Pizza. It's great pizza, and it's great. They have a baked ziti I really like, and
And they have throwback video games that Oliver loves to go play.
Yeah, right.
So.
And it's a good place. You can watch it, the afternoon sports, like the baseball playoffs this afternoon, and have a pizza, have a beer, whatever. And it's a good place and get the right music on in the background. But anyway, notify us on my web pages that you voted. We'll put you in the drawing. We'll have the drawing. I have a show scheduled on November 7th that will do the drawing. That's 2 days after the election.
Nice.
Also, Wild Cigar and Culture. You a cigar smoker, sir?
No, sir.
Oh, well, you ought to be. Anyway, it's a good place. Wild Cigar also is a good, quiet place for bars, a good place for meetings, good place for political stuff. I mean, several of the candidates have had, meet and greets out there. They have a good place for that. And it's a pretty quiet place, which is old men like me like these days. We get a bit tired of being bombarded with all this stuff. Your time's coming, you'll know.
I'm already there.
You're already there, all right. That
Toddler life he's living.
Oh yeah,
Aging you quick.
All right. But Wild Cigar also is very good in the community. They do a lot of charitable outreaches and things of that nature. They also next Friday have a big unveiling of a national brand cigar, and the manufacturer chose them to be the premier.
Nice.
Yeah,
How fun. Good
yeah,
for them.
they're really well known in that whole area, that whole circle of cigars. Cigars ain't just something you picked up at the gas station. But these guys, I mean, these are like, very, very fancy. It's like compared to buying wine or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
They know their stuff.
yeah, they do. Also, speaking of which, it's about that time, Southern Jim. Now, I can see you're married, so
Yes, sir.
you need to take your bride your lovely wife, to Southern Jim. Maybe you get out alive. I don't know. No, really, the ladies walk in there. It's a very, very nice place. And they walk in there and they're like, this is like the Vatican of jewelry stores,
Oh, wow.
It's really well done.
Yeah, it really is very nice. And my wife
And
works there
Gayla's
too.
team,
Yeah.
they do an awesome job.
They do, yeah. You've been there more than once, right?
Yes.
How about
Good
Mrs.
stuff.
Boedeker?
No comment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, it's Christmas time, so she got stuff going on. I know that they'll be opening up later and more hours, probably in about 3 weeks. Not today. I mean, open today, but they're not going to start until probably right before Thanksgiving. No, having the extended hours. Also, Old Pro Roofing, everybody knows them. John Williams, 817-734-2756. I heard there's a rumor it might rain in 6 months, and you want to find out now whether or not your roof is in good shape, because when it's raining, or we have a big freeze or something like that, and go, oh, my stars, my roof is not in good shape. That's going to cost you money. It's an expensive thing now with insurance. I'm in a networking group with Gayla and John, and they tell me dealing with insurance, what John does, dealing with insurance is not as easy as it used to be, and it never was easy. So there you go. Also, our friend over at Jeff Keller Realty, he was on Tuesday, and it was Tuesday. I get my days right. And we were talking about growth in this business, which in this area, which is not just business but houses, and this is what we're leading up to with the bonds, right?
Right.
Because
sir.
the growth is tremendous here, and you read stuff about the national market, and you think, well, is it happening here? He said, well, no, we're still booming.
Mm-hmm.
Because the interest rates, make the decision process is a little longer for some people. But they would tell you, buy the house and refinance later, because, the house ain't going to get any cheaper. And also, we talked politics related to what's going on, these proposals. And I'm here to tell you, all they're going to do is raise the price of houses. So you better get moving, guys. So if you want to move into this area. All right. So anyway, I'm going to give Jeff's phone number. Can you back up? I should give Jeff's phone number. I can't memorize it yet. 817-781-0546. He's with the Wethington Agency, which is here in town, so you're dealing with home folks. All right, Local Life, they got something going on next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, the Halloween pub crawl downtown. Tiffany always does a really good job putting these things together. She's really good at this party throwing thing. She's got another one coming up, St. Patrick's Day, where everybody, regardless of their last name, is now, you put an O in front of it. You're now Irish. So here he is, Manuel O. Garcia. It's like Cinco de Mayo, same thing. It's like, oh, Viva, where's the beer? So
Margarita.
Margarita, okay. Is that what you like? Okay. Anyway, well, it probably helps you get through those meetings, right?
I don't drink before, I drink after.
You don't drink before. Thought you drank during. I thought, I have to go for a minute somewhere in the
No,
alley.
I don't ever leave.
Well, anyway, Local Life magazine's out. They have on the cover Hard 8. They won the BTX best, what hors d'oeuvres, what a best fest, whatever they call that.
Best Fest.
Yeah, that's what I get. Best Fest and Brew Fest sometimes mixed up, but there you go. Before we jump into this, I'm going to give you a little anecdote what happened yesterday. I was getting my hair cut by Tanya Birchfield over at Inspire Salon right next to Gina's on Renfro, so I give her a shout out. She's been doing my wife's hair for about, 2 decades, I guess, a long time. And you know how it is with the wives and with women, and it's not just getting your hair done; it's counseling, and all this other stuff. I would, so when it's worth, the monthly fee, whatever she charges my wife to get her hair done, just so it's like it really is like seeing a counselor. But anyway, she was doing my hair. I'm pretty easy, and she asked about the podcast, and I said, "Well, here's what's going on tomorrow." And she goes, "What bond?" And she lives in Godley. And so we started explaining it to her. And, a lot of people are bond allergic, but I told her it's for trying to repair and get these county roads up to shape. She was on board, and she'll be voting for it. So will her husband. So, when you explain it to them like that, you need to say bond. A lot of people think, oh, geez, my taxes or whatever. But, when you tell them it's for these county roads and other infrastructure projects to alleviate some of these problems, you got a willing market, I believe. Mm-hmm. So who wants to go first? All right. Now let the county judge. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I appreciate the introduction. And you talked about people that are bond allergic. I don't know if I would consider myself in that category of bond allergic, but certainly bond skeptical. I think anytime we talk about debt, even in my personal life, it's something that we've taken on cautiously and with a purpose. And so that's what we're in a position now. I'll run through some of the context of how we got here and then what the goal is. I think it's important to point out the Commissioner's Court, they said, for those of you that are not familiar with county government, Commissioner's Court has 4 commissioners and a county judge. Together we sit as kind of like the city council of the county. Despite my title, I don't spend much time in a courtroom. I'm the county judge, but I'm the presiding officer of that Commissioner's Court. So I'm kind of like the mayor of the county. And we've really made efforts. We're trying to be fiscally conservative. We have cut our tax rate the last 2 years in a row. We adopted the no new revenue rate this year, which is it's an accomplishment. It's not an easy thing to do.
It takes
easy. It takes planning. It's not something I can guarantee we ever do again, but it was something we were able to achieve this year. And in that, from that context, we've had several discussions dating back about 1.5 years about what does transportation look like in Johnson County and what is the county's role in that. People think of the county and they sometimes think of county roads, only county roads. And those are 2-lane blacktop that you drive and you have to slow down when you pass another car. Some of those roads date back to the early 1900s. And of course, they're being maintained and repaved, but the pavement hasn't gotten much wider over that time. This bond is not really about those roads. The county, over the last 1.5 years, we've engaged with Freeze and Nichols to prepare a master thoroughfare plan. What that is a planning document to look at how we're going to move huge amounts of traffic as we grow across the county and through the county in an efficient way. And so we've really looked at the biggest roadways, the roadways that move the most traffic, and the roadways that we believe we have the ability to impact the most. For what the result of that has been, a collaboration between all the cities in the county, between citizens, developers, builders, real estate agents, have all weighed in on where their problems are. And we see those reflected in the master thoroughfare plan and now in the bond proposal. The Commissioner's Court took that idea, developed it out, and now have brought forward a bond proposal to the citizens aiming at 16 of what we believe are the highest priority projects that we can have an actual impact on our road system.
Well, for those of the people I talked to probably, I guess 7 to 8 people in the last few days about it. First thing I had to tell them is not about Burleson city roads as much. It's not going to go to Hidden Creek as much, but the benefit is for Burleson is that it'll maybe alleviate some of these issues we have with traffic, because that Wilshire is one of the first things people bring up. Victoria, I bet you get that more than once.
Right.
And it would alleviate some of those problems. And also the fact is that a lot of people, because of Wilshire and because it's crowded and whatnot, they will take these alternative routes to get to the other side of town, like 714. and that road is like basically four-wheeling.
But also by looking at a county-wide thoroughfare program, we were able to identify where we're lacking in some of those alternative routes, more of the east to west connections across the county. And when we're looking county-wide, we can take we can step back a few thousand feet and look at a bigger picture. 174 doesn't just impact Burleson, it impacts Joshua, it impacts Cleburne, Keene, Godley. And so by looking at it countywide, we're able to not just have the smaller scope that we have as a municipality or as our neighboring municipalities might have. And so as the judge said, he spearheaded putting together a steering committee that was put together, made up of all different types of professions, from realtors, developers, elected officials, business owners, and everyone kind of said, well, these are my problem areas. This is how, if I'm a particular developer, I foresee this area being developed, but there isn't a route that gets us there that can take on the amount of traffic that it's most likely going to acquire.
What's happened also, I've noticed, we all thought Chisholm Trail would alleviate some of that, but it really hasn't. And another thing,
it's encouraged that growth.
It is, but a lot of people don't use it because the toll rates have gone up. And I used to use the toll road when I couldn't. Now I try to avoid it because it's like, particularly at certain times of day, they do that variable pricing routine, and it could be a trip to other side of town, to other side of Fort Worth, could be like $15 one way.
Right.
A lot of people say, forget it. I can't afford to do that.
You have to weigh whether sitting in the traffic an additional 15 minutes or paying the $15. Which one is pick your poison?
And that's pretty much it. And well, there was a big article in the Dallas Morning News last month about how people are starting to be very, very upset with all this toll road building, and then they increase the price and all that. But that's not y'all's problem. Y'all don't deal with that at all.
Well, and none of the projects in here would be toll road projects.
Yeah, right. And I haven't had anybody ask that. Mostly they want to see comments about the county, and so many people that call Burleson home really live in the county like I do.
Right.
And we use the county roads like I do. And so you have a receptive audience if you can just get it out there. Hopefully this podcast will help. Now, you being the county engineer, you're the one that's responsible for all this, right?
Responsible is a strong word, but I have been heavily involved in it, and I know, as Victoria mentioned and the judge mentioned, this bond isn't necessarily focused on the county roads because that's not where we can have the most benefit for the buck. We have focused on TxDOT roads as they carry the most traffic. They experience the most of the congestion, and with the county growing as fast as it is, that congestion will only increase as we move into the future. And so we're trying to get ahead of the growth, so to speak, or at least stay on pace with it rather than fall behind and then have to try to play catch up. As we move on.
But also by picking those, and we refer to them as on systems. So they are in a network of TxDOT. So we obviously have a wide network of county roads. And as the judge mentioned, they budget for those as a commissioner's court. They maintain those and keep the patches up. But there's only, like he said, you haven't really widened those. And there's only so much impact that they can have on their own. But when we look at on-system roadways, that's the 174, that's 67, that is the 171, through into Godley and Crescent. And there's some significant roadways that filter all throughout our county that are under TxDOT's jurisdiction. And they are long overdue for expansions, for widening, for patchwork, for so much more. We've talked a number of times, you and I have, about East Renfro, and a portion of that is in the city limits. And we have worked to move the widening of that along, but then it rolls over into TxDOT territory. And that's just no end in sight on when that will be impacted. And it has quite a heavy traffic load.
Yes, it does.
So by looking at those as a county and saying, how can we partner with TxDOT? How can we partner with the COG and leverage funds, capitalize on additional dollars that we could bring here that moves traffic throughout our county?
Well, the thing about the point I was making about the county roads is that if you take care of these main thoroughfares better, you may not have to use those county roads. It may not have to be beat up so much. You know?
Well, that was exactly the driving thought behind this process is if we focus on TxDOT roads, there's a dual benefit. The first is increase, for those of the roads that it calls to increase their capacity, that moves traffic toward those roads and off of other roads. FM 917 is a big one.
I was going to mention that one,
east, west, and through almost the entire county.
Yes.
And if that becomes a safe, widened, straightened thoroughfare, that moves a lot of traffic off of city streets and off of county roads and saves all of us local dollars in maintenance while that road is maintained by TxDOT.
Right.
Well, I always, when I go to Cleveland, which isn't as often as I used to, I don't have I teach at Hill, but I haven't had a Cleveland-based class in about a year and a half. But when I go to Cleveland, I take 917. And now that secret's out, apparently, because particularly that bridge over the highway, because it's a long wait and all that. And then, it's 917 used to be a fairly quick way, go through Keene, not anymore. So it's like you're picking your drives based on how much patience and tolerance you have for traffic.
Well, and we partner well with TxDOT. I think we have a good relationship with TxDOT. We like working with them, but the way that they prioritize their projects comes down to roads that are either falling into an unacceptable service level or people are getting hurt there. And if the county can take a leadership role and maybe accelerate some of these projects, make them sooner in time, we don't have to wait for people to get hurt to expand the roadway.
Yeah. I mean, one good example is the loop around Cleburne. I mean, how 20, 30 years have we talked about that? And it's a significant, not just in the amount of cars and traffic that it sees, but there's accidents, and TxDOT says, well, we'll get to it. It's in our plan. And it's sat so long in their plan that that the loop has extended further and further out. And it's just one example of a project that this bond committee looked at, because we know truck traffic through the square in Cleburne just doesn't make sense. Those roadways were not built for 18-wheelers. And if you're heading into Cleburne to do any county business and you're sitting on 174, you're sitting on Henderson, you're trying to get through downtown, it's impossible sometimes because of how backlogged those trucks are that were never meant to go through the downtown square.
And we see from my office, I can see the downtown square shut down usually a couple of times a week with windmill blades or other the super heavy loads. They've got to get flaggers out. They close down all directions of traffic, and the whole downtown comes to a standstill to move that traffic through because there is no alternative.
There is no alternative. Yeah. And it's not safe.
So, Cole, what role would you have in this? Do you have any kind of ability to prioritize, or is that just decided by the committee?
That's a good segue. Talking about our prioritization.
I would be heavily involved in prioritizing the projects, and along with discussion with the court and committee to basically figure out which projects are going to have the most impact the quickest.
Can you address how we kind of bucketed these projects? Safety.
Yes.
And
so there were roughly about four themes that the steering committee and myself and the director of public works, Jennifer Vanderlyn, looked at with this bond package. It was improving railroad crossings, to get some grade separations there, as those are typically tend to be the choke points.
I could tell you one right now. It's one on 917 in Egan.
Yes, that was one that was brought up by almost everybody that we talked to.
Oh, that is on the map, right?
It's on the map.
Okay, it's on the project plan.
The railroad crossing in Joshua is also another big one. That one's being addressed by TxDOT. But when is...
You talk about like near Main Street in Joshua?
Yes.
I've been caught there too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I get caught by trains all the time. Crowley and Burleson.
It's Johnson County.
And I hear about it nonstop.
Yeah.
And a major one for Burleson that we're looking at as far as a railroad crossing or at grade crossing is the Hewlin Bridge. That's not really meant to be an underpass. It's a creek bed. And TxDOT's aware of it. We know it's an issue as a municipality, but funding for it is well down the line. So even some funding to address like what's going to be our plan for that? Where do we even start? It's not identified. So this bond program would allow us to have some funding to start figuring out what is the solution for that. There's the west side of Burleson is where a lot of our growth is going to occur.
Yeah, Taylor, you have what the mayor gave us, and I believe they have the same thing. There we go. So, what's the one you're looking at to prioritize? I think it's the second page of it.
Yeah.
There we go.
There. And that lists all the projects, kind of and it's split up kind of by theme. But like I mentioned, the railroad crossing improvements, getting some grade separations there, improving safety where we can, getting that major east-west arterial, which kind of has been identified as 917. What we're doing is trying to piggyback off of what TxDOT is already working on, which is 917 from 35 to Mansfield going east. And we're trying to capitalize on that and extend the benefit of that with this to make 917 a viable east-west corridor, even more than it already is, and straighten out some of the sharp curves that are in there, adjust some of the railroad crossings, get those to operate a little bit more efficiently.
How far does 917 go in Johnson County?
It goes from Godley to Mansfield, 287, I believe.
All right. See, I go to Dallas once a week, and I take 67 into Dallas because I've been going into southern downtown Dallas, and so I take 917. And I've been here 30 years or more, and when I was going to see my parents when they lived in Ennis, we'd take 917 to get to 67 and then whatnot. But it was pretty empty road. Now, I mean, last night or Wednesday night, when I was coming home about 7:30, it was bumper to bumper. I mean, it was moving along well enough, but it was a lot of traffic. And what I also noticed is more and more light industrial businesses are putting their businesses in the county as opposed to in the city. Doggone it! I know you want the tax, but they put it in the county, and so I'm seeing more heavy duty vehicles, semi trucks and concrete haulers and you name it. I mean, big time rigs out there, and that's a new thing for me out there where I live. And so that as our engineer friend will tell you, that puts quite a stress on the road.
It does. It does. Heavier loads impact roads more significantly than your passenger cars do.
Yes, and it also, what the mayor was talking about is not only just the roads, but the shoulders are all torn to pieces. Like you're
correct, and that's an effect of when you're meeting head on, having to move over and the road's not being quite wide enough. And so you're having to get off into those shoulders, and where they're typically, you'll see some more failures just because of the way it was constructed.
Well, I'm sure when they built those roads half a century ago, if they are older. Yeah. Well, whatever. I mean, the idea of what was going on there probably never occurred to anybody.
Yeah.
I grew up in a town that was growing like this when I was in high school and early college, Plano, and you look at what's happened in Collin County, and I don't even recognize it anymore. I don't, when I go there occasionally, I don't have nostalgia because it wasn't there when I was there. But we had the same issues. A lot of the issues y'all have to deal with, like schools and such, the traffic issues. Yeah. And that's what I've noticed in Burleson. And, it's odd to me, the worst traffic day is Saturday. For me anyway. You would think so, but no, you go about 10
you're
o'clock.
Around doing business.
Right.
That's your day to do your grocery shopping, do your errands around town. And so just as you mentioned, though, coming back to the truckloads, there's so much more business and commerce in Johnson County, I think, than we can even imagine. And it's kind of funny. Until you're driving around, you don't really realize it. But these trucks are moving product in and out. They're moving things like windmill blades. Can't imagine how fascinating that is to watch it from your office. But, there's a lot of things going on, and these roads weren't really built for that load.
Now, your office is in the old courthouse.
Yes, right? I'm downtown Cleburne.
Right. And so I've been through downtown plenty of times, and I've noticed that what we're talking about is like, is there a way I can get to where I'm going without having to go through downtown Cleburne? And that impacts those small businesses that are trying to create a town square there, like we're doing in Old Town. I mean, so this traffic is more than just inconvenience or road wear on your cars and tires. It's also impacting business because a lot of people say, well, I'd like to go do this, but I don't want to deal with the traffic.
I think there's a significant economic aspect to this. We haven't really talked about the numbers. It is a $60 million bond proposal. In context, we've talked about it's not county roads. And that's because we already spend between $12 and $18 million a year on county roads at this point. $60 million would be a drop in the bucket for maintaining those roads. And those roads, the way they're paved, they've got to be maintained. They've got to be reworked every 5 to 10 years. So that wouldn't be a wise use of taxpayer dollars. But
but this will alleviate some of the
this I think this does help.
Right.
And what
I think there's a compound economic element to that. So it's $60 million of direct investment by the county toward what we've identified between $300 and $400 million in projects. So there is a construction impact of bringing that money into the county, seeing it spent in the county, and going at least some portion to local businesses. There's also a safety aspect to this beyond those the obvious impact for people driving on the roads. But during this process of creating the master thoroughfare plan, we had stakeholder meetings with first responders, police, fire, ambulance, and they identified some of these railroad crossings as the biggest threat to public safety that they encounter on the roadway. Because if you've got your only fire truck in your town on the wrong side of the railroad and there's a train there, sorry, you're going to wait. And nobody wants a 20-minute response time because of a 15-minute delay with a train.
I don't see how, honestly, here in Crowley, I don't see how the police or fire get to it, because when that train comes through downtown Crowley, this town is cut in half.
You better hope you have resources on both ends.
And you better hope that train has a fast-moving one, because we've seen them where they've stopped for whatever reason. And, I mean, this whole town comes to a dead stop. But I know you can't do with the trains as much, but, these other things we can alleviate as much as possible. Now, you're talking about a time frame, right? What would the time frame be? Let's say it's passed on, God willing, it's passed on November 5th. It didn't like dirt's flying November 6th. So
no, sir.
What are we talking about here?
There is a planning stage to all of this. And what this bond is designed to do is to advance some of the engineering, the environmental clearance, the
right-of-way purchasing.
May or may not be right-of-way purchasing. It kind of depends on the project and context of the situation. But what this does, it unlocks the ability for TxDOT to take over the construction cost of these projects. And like the judge mentioned, it's a $60 million bond for potentially $3 to $4 to maybe up to $500 million worth of construction costs.
Well, there's going to be more bonds in the future if this one passes. That I would have to imagine, because what I always understand, if I remember what Victoria told me, this bond, a lot of it has to do with a lot of the prep work and a lot of the preparation and planning, and also to attract matching funds.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
That's a big deal. And then so once all that is in place, it's going to cost more money to start the actual construction.
Well,
yes, sir.
I don't know that there are more bonds in the future, not for these projects or maybe at all.
Okay.
Really, the idea is the reason we picked TxDOT roads to be a part of this and to focus on is because we don't want local tax dollars paying for construction costs. That's the lion's share of the cost of these projects, and that's borne by TxDOT. They build to their standards, or they hire their contractors to do their work.
Well, that was just me talking. That wasn't Victoria talking. I just was assuming that once all this prep work is done, when the actual construction starts, we'd have to pony up some more money. But what you're telling me
that's what
we're hoping to unlock by making these shovel ready, by by furthering where some of these projects stand. Like I mentioned, the railroad at grade crossing at Hewlin, for example, there are no funds designated for that locally or otherwise right now. So we haven't even begun to explore what options do we have when it comes to solving that significant traffic issue and getting cars to move through the west side of town. So this is one example of a project we identified to say, hey, currently there's no funding. So TxDOT, if we cannot identify local funding to even start the legwork of looking at right-of-way, looking at engineering, looking at the other pieces that go into the prep work, as you mentioned, then TxDOT's not going to spend any money toward it. Well, so by dedicating some local funds to do some of that legwork on the front end, we then are leveraging TxDOT construction dollars.
Well, I just want to make clear, you haven't told me on the air or off the air there's other bonds coming. It was just me speculating, so I don't want to distract from what we're talking about here.
That's why we specifically chose on-system projects, is to unlock those funds between the state and federal dollars.
Federal dollars, yeah. But inevitably, there are projects going on. And we can identify even more projects than we have here on this list that are just within our county. But there's projects everywhere, statewide. And inevitably, there will be some that they thought were going to go to construction and don't end up happening, whether that's because there's been some changes, the design isn't what they needed it to be, they need some change, they need to find some alternate solutions to that. Or sometimes the quotes for construction come in even higher. One example that was given to us in a TxDOT meeting was there was a project planned for the DFW area. They estimated about $33 million for it, and it's now something of $68 million. So those $33 million is not enough to make that project happen. So now those construction dollars are sitting and are available for a project somewhere else in our state that is readily available to move dirt. And we are trying to make our projects more attractive to those matching funds from TxDOT and federal dollars by saying our projects are ready to move dirt.
Yeah. You mentioned Parker County kind of showed you how to do this.
Yes, sir.
All right. You've been talking to your colleague over at Parker County?
Yes, I've had some conversations with Judge Dean. We've looked at Parker County. We've also looked at Hunt County and how they both followed slightly different paths through this process. And Hunt County took an approach that's pretty similar to what we're doing. They're mostly on system roads, so TxDOT roads that they're spending money on. They're moving cautiously, and in their bond, we sat down with Freeze and Nichols earlier this week and looked at some of the projects that had been completed. And in Hunt County, they were averaging. The county was spending about 6% of the total cost of the project. So for a 6% investment, TxDOT picked up the other 94% on the completed projects.
That's nice.
Now, that was slower. Parker County's done it a little more aggressively. They're
But they started out slow.
They did. They started out slow. Parker County's fronted about 15% of the money, and with TxDOT picking up the other 85% of the cost of the construction and everything else that goes along with it. But they have seen faster results.
Yes,
and
so if you drive over into Parker County, if you're heading toward Weatherford, you see they got aggressive. They passed a small bond package to begin with, and they saw the success of that. They saw that TxDOT came to the table and said, okay, if you have some skin in the game, we will too. And they've really made some impacts on I-20. Parker has seen the benefit of passing the bond packages and putting some local dollars toward these projects that are on system, and then they've expanded that. We're starting very conservatively. We've identified on system roadways that could utilize TxDOT's attention, and they're on TxDOT's radar, but we just don't know when. So how do we move those up in the priority list? Well, we further them to be more shovel ready.
You know, Weatherford and Burleson have a lot in common, you know, because they're booming as well.
Yeah.
I have a cousin lives out there, and I go see him every now and then, and it's every time I go there, it's like half their roads are under construction, but they're just blowing up, and that's so are we. And that's what Jeff Kelly was telling me on Tuesday. He said, you know, even though you hear stuff about how the rates are killing the markets and all that, it does slow things down, but, you know, sooner or later those rates are going to come down, and the houses are going to be back on the market and things of that nature. And we better be prepared for that. And, you know, that's, I'm glad to hear all this conversation about what exactly is it. There's Taylor, do you have that part of the website that kind of shows the projects? So, you know, there you go. See, that's why it's so good. And so a lot of this, you know, I guess we have to emphasize to people, said, you know, maybe Hidden Creek may not be repaired tomorrow, but these other roads that you may not even go on may make it better for Burleson. Yeah. You know, a lot of these roads in the southern part of the county, and it'll make it better for us here in the northwest eastern part of the county. Yes. So we all have definitely a stake in this, even if it's not your front road that's going to get repaired first. You know, if you want Hidden Creek, talk to her. But if you want these other roads, you need to talk to these guys, because that's the ones that hopefully will alleviate some of the pressure off our traffic here in Burleson.
That's the plan. Is to
So I want to kind of expand on a point that you were alluding to, that the growth is going to come regardless. And I can speak to this from firsthand experience. While houses may not be being built the same way they were in 21, 22, 23, development, platting out the lots, getting lots set and ready to be built on has not slowed down.
I was sitting in an event last Thursday night, a week ago last night. The Next Up Women's Center had their giving gala, and I sat next to Justin Bond, who's with Rocky Branson's crew. I don't know if y'all know him, but know Justin, but you know Rocky.
Yes.
So, and when that development comes out there in their Chisholm Trail,
Summit.
boy, it's going to be
It's over 2,300 rooftops.
right. That's going to really be a big deal.
And the county sees that county-wide, for the, like you mentioned, there's a lot more people that say they live in Burleson or say they live in Joshua, but they actually live in the county. And those plans for developments come before the commissioner's court, and they have a lot less ability to, you almost have to say yes to pretty much any development that comes before you.
If they meet the requirements, if they meet all the requirements in the subdivision regulations, then we have to say yes.
Even if the infrastructure really isn't there to support that, which is why the judge in this commissioner's court had the foresight to say, okay, we need to look at this. We need to look at our growth countywide. We need to have a master thoroughfare plan, because while each and every county road might not be listed, in a bond program, because that's not using and capitalizing on the tax dollars in the best way possible. But how do we get some traffic off of those roadways by improving some of the heavier used roadways that are TxDOT maintained? So we put in some dollars on the front end to move these projects along. TxDOT constructs them, and then TxDOT maintains them.
Yes. And I think that's one of the kind of the hidden benefits for Burleson. Y'all have a couple of projects on here that are currently Burleson roads, right? Yep. But if these projects were undertaken and completed by TxDOT, they become TxDOT roads.
Yay.
It's off their books.
One less thing.
It's all about collaboration and partnerships.
Absolutely.
We have been, the judge has mentioned collaborating with Parker County Judge and speaking with Hunt County Judge. And we have utilized what other people have done before and said, this may or may not work for Johnson County. Let's figure it out. Let's brainstorm together, putting together a steering committee made up of all different types of professions from all over our county. But then we also have County Commissioner Bailey sits on the Regional Transportation Commission. He is currently, I believe, vice president, and next year he'll be president. I currently sit on our COG executive board. I'm the vice president currently. Next year I'll be president. We're at an opportune time to say, hey, Johnson County, we're here and we recognize the growth that we have coming, and we are appropriately positioned if we show that we too acknowledge that these are accessibility issues, traffic issues, safety issues, and we're willing to put in some of the legwork to bring TxDOT, to bring federal dollars. Let's do that. Let's show that these two major entities, the state and the federal government, that we're ready to move these projects. We're ready to bring some attention here. And then when those dollars are available, when they're not utilized somewhere else in the state, they're going to come to us.
Well, I think also it's a good thing because I had the mayor on last Monday, the 14th. But I'm getting my dates all confused. But he was on the 14th. Yes, that's it. And he was talking about how well positioned we are with yourself on the council of governments, and now you mentioned Commissioner Bailey, and then of course what we got going on with Johnson County leadership. Yep. Is we're not doing this haphazardly or by the seat of our pants at all. And I think I like that a lot. Is that there's been a lot of foresight and forethought. Now, can you anticipate every issue? Well, no, but we're not asking that. But we are saying every possibility we can think of at the time and talk to as many people as we can.
Yes.
It's a slow process, right? You mentioned this has been discussed for how long now?
I think we had our initial meetings about the Master Thoroughfare Plan in February or March of 2023. So about a year and a half.
And that's actually, to get to this point this quick, is for government work is pretty good because, the wheels do grind slowly, particularly on these roads. But anyway.
Well, it was important to get stakeholder feedback. And we had numerous public meetings before we even considered a bond package. That was just on the thoroughfare plan.
The bond package, I think we started looking at that in May.
That sounds about right. I think we had some internal meetings maybe in April of that year, and then kind of immediately brought it to the public and the steering committee to get feedback about whether people were interested.
Yes.
Well, when you're doing some of the stakeholders, some of the people I was talking to, they would say, have you talked to these trucking companies? Are they part of the conversation? Or are they putting in a piece of the action?
Well, the business community is.
Okay.
It may not be the trucking company exactly, but the business that takes place within our county, they've been a part of the conversations all along the way because it's to their benefit. They want their product to move in and out of our county. They want to make money, and we want them to be successspel.
Well, Alex Phillips says, hey, I'm sure you'll know him well.
He served on our committee as
Did
well.
he? Well, y'all have time for anything else? He spent a lot of time at committees, but that's government work too. That's what I was so glad about this particular city council. They made government boring again, which is what it's supposed to be. We don't need drama, and it's government, and this is government. I tell my classes, I said, y'all are so used to thinking about government in terms of politics. That's
Chaos in D.C.
Right. That's just the circus. No, there's a lot of hard work going into governing. It's can be fairly detailed and sometimes I bet tedious to govern, but that's what governing is.
I'm certainly passionate about local government, and I like the idea that the things that we engage with are too important to have a shutdown or a standstill or gridlock. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
When you're talking about public safety and infrastructure, these things have to work, and so we have to find a way forward.
People have to get to work. Yeah. People want to create businesses and move their businesses, and we want Johnson County to be at the top of that list.
Well, and also the thing about it is, what I like what's going on in our county and in our city now is that the debates are about policy. They're not about personalities. They're not about issues, or whatever else. I'm sure on all those meetings there was a lot of, I don't know if they ever got, amped up, but I'm sure there's a lot of spirited conversation about which roads and how to do it and all this. But at the end of the day, y'all have come out with a plan and a package, and I hope it. I feel like it will pass. My biggest concern, and this is kind of a side issue, is that a lot of people will go in and they'll vote starting next week, and they'll vote for president, Senate, and Roger Williams, I think, is running unopposed, if I recall, and maybe a couple other races, and say, well, I'm done. And they won't turn that page over. We got in Burleson, besides this bond issue, we also have
a local option
to have about, we're going to liquor stores in Burleson.
But that'll be on a separate ballot. So if you're, yes.
Okay.
I believe so. Now you're making the question.
Is the county conducting it?
Well,
or are y'all conducting it?
I just know I'm going to the sub courthouse.
We contracted with the county. I remember that coming before us. So then you think it's on the same ballot?
Well, I
should be.
I think we tried to get everybody on the same ballot.
It's really important to flip over that ballot.
My anecdote, I would say this predates all of you guys, but about 2020 or 2004 rather, the college had a referendum on it, and to lower the tax rate, or raise the tax rate a few bucks so kids could go on a more discounted basis. And because it was the Bush Kerry election, and most people just went straight Republican, boom, and didn't bother turning it in. Now they don't do straight voting anymore on the ballot, which is a good thing, but that initiative failed. And so here I am, I'm teaching at these college classes, and I got kids that walk to my class, and they're paying more than the kids from Alvarado, or Josh was sitting right next to them, and they don't understand that. So, I will talk about the booze election, I guess, if you want to call it that, the liquor store election in another show. But this one, I really do believe points to the future way we're thinking about our county, as opposed to being reactive. We're trying to be proactive, and that's a good thing. Not all counties are like that.
Absolutely.
You don't have to tell me which ones, but
I don't even think we have to say we don't have to single out counties. As a state, there are areas all across this state where, we really should have. You can see it all the time when a construction has gone on 35, for example, and then the next thing you know, you feel like it's only been a couple of years and construction is going on again, and it's because they didn't adequately plan the first round. And we have examples of that locally where it's like, oh shoot, we should have went ahead and put in that second lane both ways, but we didn't. We were trying to be overly cautious, overly conservative, and there are sometimes when that's appropriate and we need to do that. But then there's other times when you don't want to turn around and spend double the amount of money to reconstruct something that we just constructed. And I think we're trying to identify those areas. We know the heavily trafficked, the heavily driven areas. 917 is one good example. And so if we know them and we can bring additional dollars to our area with TxDOT's help, with the federal level's help, then we should.
Well, and I think that's a big selling point, because when I tell people, well, the bulk of the money is going to come from the state, but we have to put in, like an ante in a poker game. We can't just play for free, and so that most people were very receptive once they were made aware of the need for it and what was going to, because almost everybody, I'm sure Victoria will tell you, I bet 3/4 of your complaints on the email are about roads. Right. Yeah. And so, I think this has support. It just, hopefully this show and other opportunities you'll have to get the word out will make the difference. But once they find out that Otto's putting $50 and Gina's money in it, they're going to get right out there. Yeah, they're going to vote early and vote often.
The most important thing is that we are going to the voters so that it's your decision. We're not taking this lightly. We didn't take any of the legwork lightly. It was a very thoughtful process that we worked through. And there are so many more projects that we know need attention, but the objective was to not bite off more than we could chew. We wanted to be conservative about the amount that we took on, and we identified some projects a little bit in each precinct, because as the judge mentioned, there's 4 precincts in our county. And so, doing a little bit, and if you go to the website, you can click on the individual projects, and it kind of explains, was it a safety, was it themed for safety? Was it themed for accessibility? And then you can kind of see, there's a little bit from each precinct. We just tried to spread it out and make it digestible for everyone. And it's not going to solve all of our problems, but it's an inch in that direction.
Oh, it's more than an inch.
And Victoria, to add to that point, you mentioned taking this to the voters. I do think we have to talk about the cost of it. It's not free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. If it's possible, if we could go to the front page of this document that discusses some of the costs. And Cole, do you mind? Will you slide me that one?
They had the average increase or whatnot. It was like $25. Oh, there it is.
Yes. Okay. So again, a little context here. This comes from our certified tax appraisal rolls. So the average taxable home in Johnson County today for tax bills that are going out is $251,707. That's not a number we pulled out of the air. That comes from the average value in Johnson County. The maximum estimated tax rate increase to fund this bond comes out to less than 1 penny on the tax rate, which is just under $25 a year. So there is a cost. And it's important to talk about that. I think it's important to be fair about that. It's also to provide a little context. Because of the size of this debt, we, at the Commissioner's Court, we could have held our tax rate flat and borrowed the money without coming to the voters. Instead, we cut our tax rate and brought it to the voters because we're, above all things, we want to be transparent. We want citizen feedback. We want buy-in. We don't want this to be a basket of projects that we came up with on our own and tried to do something.
No, I think the bond is the way to go, because that way the people do have a voice in it. But it also, I'm always opposed to, borrowing. Bonds, I know, are a form of borrowing, but I think this is a better way to do the borrowing than just adding it to the budget, because then here comes the tax increase or whatever, the payment increase, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions about that.
It's not just a committee of 5 making the determination for the entire county.
Right.
We're saying we're bringing it to the people before we take on this commitment. Do you agree with it? Did we should have voter approval and citizen buy-in throughout the entire way.
I do think.
Sorry, I just want to say we have the QR code if you want to get more information here on on the screen. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, I think that was me. I also want to point out the state maintains financial information for the counties. There's the Bond Review Board, the BRB, that's a state website, and it allows you to compare where your jurisdiction compares to other similarly populated jurisdictions. So the snapshot for Johnson County, you compare Johnson County to the 4 larger and 4 smaller counties, has us with less debt than almost any of the other counties, a lower debt rate than most of the other counties. Our current total debt, it's about $17 million for the county on a budget of about $150 million. We have a very low debt rate.
Send this man to Washington.
Our debt rate per capita works out to about $89 a person. So if you live in Johnson County and wanted to write a check for $89, we could pay off our existing debt tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that was the 3rd lowest.
I think the 3rd lowest out of our peer counties that we compared to, yes. And so debt is something we take seriously. We've never in the history of Johnson County brought a bond election to the voters. The only debt we carry was a remodel and expansion to the jail, and that was associated with the fact that the state requires us to maintain a jail for all the arrestees in the county. But that's the extent of our debt. And we've not done a bond election before. This is not something that we do perennially. We don't bring it back and back. We don't hide it on off-season ballots. We're right there on the presidential ballot. Because again, we want transparency. If we do this, we want there to be buy-in. We don't want it to be, like you said, Victoria, a committee of 5. It's it's a community. And if this is something that we value as a community, then we'll move forward. And if it's something we don't value as a community, we won't.
Well,
That's 100%.
my feeling is the more people hear about it, the more acceptance it's going to have. Because it really is, this is more of a matter of just getting the word out. I don't see any real opposition to it. You know, there's not. I don't see. I mean, you'll have some no votes, of course, but I don't see any organized opposition to it. And I'm sure that Burleson's not the only one promoting this. I'm sure the guys over in Cleburne and Alvarado and Grandview are doing what they can to promote it.
I know the judge has set up a number of community coffees and meetings with local leaders, business leaders. And then we have, as the judge mentioned, we've partnered with Freese and Nichols as our consultants for this. And they have set up a number of public meetings, met with Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, and there's
City council presentations.
All the city
council presentations, school board presentations. And if there's more groups that we can get in front of, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I know I've made myself available. The mayor's made himself available. Dan McClendon served on this committee as well, and he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to transportation. And there were a number of other active board members that were a part of this. And we're an open book. You know, we want citizens to come along on this journey with us.
There will be hosted public forums, one next week in Cleburne, and then one the week after in Burleson. So, Colt, do you have the one in Cleburne? What's the date and time? Do you recall?
It is October 23rd. I believe it's at 6 p.m. at the Cleburne Conference Center. It's a town hall meeting.
Wow, they have a conference center over there? I wish Burleson did.
It's a dual town hall meeting to give an update on the master thoroughfare plan as well as present some information on the bond program.
And then October 28th at 6 p.m. at Burleson City Hall. They're nice enough to host us, and I'll be there, and we'll answer any questions that we get.
Well, Alex Phillips has said, I will applaud the judge and commissioner's leadership in this. The vision for the whole county will be safer and have more opportunities for economic growth in the future. This was a great team effort. Yes, it was. You have one more time on the show. The day before the election, November 4th, and the mayor's going to join you. He's kind of intimidated, I think. I said, I don't know. I said, come on the show. Oh, she'll, make me look silly. No, she won't. Holy cow! He's just being humble, but I'm glad he's showing the kind of foresight that we need from a mayor on this, and that he's showing kind of forward thinking, because we have to have this passed. I mean, we cannot continue to just.
It's not easy to say we need to spend money.
No,
I mean,
and I know, if you know the mayor, he's as bond allergic as anybody, but he's been on board with this. I think 100%. I
think it's just about education and understanding where are those dollars going and what do you want to do with them. People, it's kind of scary when you take on a bond program and you're just wondering, and it's very broad, and you're saying, we're going to make improvements. That's not our plan with this bond program. We've specifically identified project, and we've specifically stated why we need how we got to these projects. And so, there's lots of information. It's a great website, johnsoncountybond.com. It's very user-friendly. You can click on the individual projects. You can click on any of the information we've provided. There are videos and, calculators, so you can understand the impact that this will have on your household. It's important. It is important to understand.
What is the website address again?
johnsoncountybond.com.
Okay. And so you find all the information you need there.
There are also social media accounts for the Johnson County Transportation Bond Program. Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, all the socials.
All the stuff.
Well,
we're about out of time, so I'll let y'all go around the horn here and give us the last word. We'll let the ladies go first. And keep it under 5 minutes.
I will.
It's like talking to Kamala Harris sometimes.
Ow.
I was born in a middle class family.
You're so awful.
You're
awful.
I am.
Anyway.
Whoa.
I strongly encourage everyone to do their research on this bond program. We didn't come to these decisions lightly. We had a great committee. We brought the people along with us, and encourage you to look at the website. ask and reach out if you have any questions. I think all of us have made ourselves accessible, and we're here for it. Let us know how we can help become more informed and better informed.
Okay.
Yes, I'll echo what Ms. Johnson mentioned about please be informed about the bond program. And this was just honestly the best way we knew how to get the most bang for the bucks with respect to infrastructure dollars.
Right.
So, irrespective of the bond, I want to reiterate, I firmly believe, as a lifelong Johnson County resident, I'll steal your born in a middle class family comment, but I firmly believe Johnson County is the best place in the world to live and to work and to raise a family, and that's why I live here and work here and raise my family here. And when we look at what makes us so special and what sets us apart from other places, I think there's a small town community feel here. And the way that we talk about trying to preserve that is investing in two things: law enforcement, because people want to feel safe, and infrastructure, because people don't want to sit in traffic all day.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're in a small town when you're stuck behind at the same red light for 4 or 5 cycles.
Oh, yes.
So irrespective of the bond, I think those are our priorities. It's things we want to work toward, and we want to try to maintain that feel of who we are as a community.
Well, the most important question I have to ask for you, Judge, is you have a prediction on the Baylor Tech game tomorrow?
It's going to be close, but I gotta root for my Bears.
Okay, yeah, I know. Remember, guys, though, about Gina's election contest, because voting starts Monday. And
So
it's a big
go
deal.
early vote, check it off your list, take care of it, and
I like
it's so
voting
much
on day.
easier.
I'll vote on the day of if I had my choice. But since Robin works on Tuesdays till about 6, she didn't want to stand in line on her feet, more than she has already. So we'll
I
probably
vote on my birthday. It's my tradition.
Yeah.
I geek out about this. You all know that. So my birthday's Tuesday, and
She's
I'll be
always been
voting.
like this. I mean, I've known her for 20 years, and this is her. That she was like this. Oh boy, it's an election, and all their high school peers are like,
Participating in democracy.
yeah, and they're like, election? What's this election?
I should be better about. I vote every time, of course, but I always wait until I look down and realize I have about 30 minutes of free time, and I can early vote in 30 minutes because there's no line. And so
Right.
it's
But
convenient.
isn't the courthouse an early voting location?
My location is not. I have to walk about 2 blocks.
Oh,
I do
darn.
walk though.
To the Gwynn Center?
To the Gwen. Well, the Walnut, the elections office on Walnut Street, right behind the Gwen.
When I worked out of Cleburne, it was at the courthouse. And so I would skip there because I worked 1 block away. I'm like in line telling people, you get to vote today. And they're like, yes. Crazy person.
Yes. Well, we voted at the sub courthouse across from BHS, and it got a really nice facility for that now.
They do. Thank you to the Commissioner's Court for fixing that
Very
election
nice.
room. It's so nice, so easy to use, and greatly appreciate as a city official our ability to work with you all on
We
that.
were excited to host you guys last time. The municipal election was in there, even though the county didn't have anything on the ballot. We were able to share that space. Just one of the testaments of the way that Burleson and Johnson County have really partnered over the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
And the same ladies and the gentlemen work it. And so when I walk in there,
The same faces.
yeah, same faces. That's a good thing.
Yes, it
It's
is.
reassuring because,
They know their stuff.
well,
know
they
how to get you
do,
in and out.
in and out. You're not going to have to mess around. And there's a woman there every time I walk in there. You need to tell them to vote on your show. And so I'm telling y'all, go vote. All right. All right. I got that covered.
And turn over the ballot. Make sure you get to that backside.
Over the ballot. Yes. So, but we'll see again, like I said, in about 2.5 weeks.
I'll be back the day before Election Day
And,
with the mayor.
Yes. And, I'm sure it might be a sleepless night, but I'm going to throw out my call right now that, I'm going to say Roger Williams is going to win his election. All right. But no, I think this bond will pass. I really do, because I think once people start dialing in on it a little bit, and now hopefully this podcast will help them a little bit, and your peers in the other parts of the county, like I said, there's no organized opposition to it, and there's no reason to have any organized opposition to it. I think it'll work. But I sure appreciate y'all coming. I always enjoy these kind of shows. I can rant about, politics at another time. So it's always good to do some positive. So
We appreciate the opportunity.
No
Yes,
problem.
thank you for having us.
And to
No
those
problem.
listening, don't hesitate to reach out with questions. We're here for it.
right, let's see what I got going on next week. I know I think next week is a nonprofit based week. Oops, hit the wrong button again. I have on Monday. I have Jennifer Woods at Harvest House. I don't know if you know this, but she'll be leaving that organization soon, which is very...
Her last event and her last day is November 7th.
Right, and it's
So for anyone who's in town, come by their brunch event. It's free to attend, and they have a phenomenal speaker plan. They did last year as well, and Harvest House serves so much more than Burleson. Serves a lot of Johnson County.
Yes, absolutely.
And on Thursday next week, we have Jack Matson and Mike Perdue, the Marines Toys for Tots, is revving up again. So we're going to be talking about that. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And so anyway, thank you, Taylor, for all your assistance.
Always.
All right, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.